iTestify is about testifying of what Jesus Christ has done and can do in each of our lives. Through testimony of people just like you and through study of His Word, our prayer is to encourage each follower of Christ to be a light in this world. So let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16.
Hello friends, thank you for joining us on iTestify today. We are joined by Priscilla, who is my friend and fellow nurse, and so we are here to talk about a ministry that you're involved in, and it's called iShare, correct?
That is the name, iShare.
All right, so tell me more about that, please.
Well, iShare is a conference that originally began as kind of the ending point for canvassers during the summer. After they were done with their 10-week evangelism run, they kind of wanted a way to send them home with just final encouragement. And so they created iShare, but then it took off so much that it became one of those conferences that fit everybody, that fit the public. And it has helped others to learn about evangelism, learn how to share the gospel, and to go home with a great taste in their mouth of the gospel and of a relationship with Christ.
And you were there from the beginning, right? You were there from
I was there from the beginning.
Wow.
The first iShare, but as a participant, not as the background.
Yeah. Well, so that means as a participant, you were once a colporteur.
Correct. I was a colporteur for, I believe I did 3 years as a student colporteur and 1 year as a leader in Washington.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely life-changing. And then to end it with encouragement, I think that's great too, because we have like that mountaintop experience, and then to go to these conferences, it kind of teaches you how to come back and to share that experience with others. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So how long has iShare been going for?
Numbers.
Many years.
Many years. There we go. That's a good one. I almost want to say like 6, 7 years.
So what was the experience like as a student colporteur going through this and then experiencing iShare?
Well, I remember the first year that I was a colporteur, we actually didn't have it. We had the Souls West graduation, and then that was kind of it. And I always felt like there was something that needed to be done just to have that closure, if that makes sense. And so the next year, I actually, I think I skipped canvassing and I tried summer counseling. That was an adventure. Love kids. They're crazy. Love them. And then I did canvassing again, and they had created this iShare conference. And it was amazing. Like, they had such incredible speakers. I think Tosh Pakleb was actually one of them. And I was just like, wow, this is what I needed to just finish off and feel encouraged to go back home, to go back to my schools, go back to my job, and just share without feeling like I don't know how, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I could share all about my experiences at the doors, but I also wanted to cap it with a spiritual message for them. And with iShare, the whole acronym stands for I seek to help advance revival and evangelism. And so their whole message, all of their messages and premises, they go to encourage us how to share evangelistically, how to share to revive someone in their spiritual walk and to revive ourselves.
You know, I think that I've heard this, and it's kind of true. It's so important to teach people how to integrate themselves, the colporteur, back into life.
Yes.
Because I've gone to conferences before, I've been to iShare before, and you're just like so happy, you're on the spiritual high, and you're like, yeah, do this, and then you get back home, and it's like, nobody else cares, They're like, yeah, that's nice what you went through, but also, how do you put what you learned into practice and keep that momentum going,
Right.
So that's really hard to do on your own.
Right.
So.
And the whole purpose too is to a relationship with God should feel attainable for another person. Like they should see the joy that you have and be like, can I have that? Yes, I can have that. And they should it says that Jesus is attractive. And so when we follow Jesus and people see him in our lives, they should be attracted to that. And so going to these conferences, it kind of just teaches you how to share and to share attractively. Does that make sense?
How do you, what you said is so true. How do you feel that not even just colporteurs, but people who want to go to iShare who aren't colporteurs, how would one go about showing that God is in their life and allowing other people to see it so that they're interested? Because it's so hard. Like sometimes you're like, well, I have to be normal. I can't be out there, but you know, it's like hard.
So that's always been the tricky question too, because people are like, how do I show God and not turn people off to the gospel? Like, I don't want to come off too strong. But I mean, when you're in love with something, it's going to come off strong anyways.
So true.
But with the Bible and with the spirit of prophecy, like we learn this really beautiful principle, and that is by beholding we become changed. And so if we want to make the gospel attractive, the best way is to just follow the one who makes it attractive, Jesus. And the more we behold him, the more we actually read about him and learn from him and start trying to practice things as he would have done, the more people will see Jesus in you and the more that they'll be attracted to that.
So really what I gather from what you're saying here is that it's a very simple principle, which is what the Bible is all about, Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
So when you're naturally in love with someone, that love and showing that love for others is almost like just a result or just an effect of it. But the main purpose is finding out more about Jesus.
Right. And it's not being afraid to share the gospel. So many times I think we're trepidatious, like at work, like I don't want to offend anyone. If I have atheist coworkers, I don't want to like step on their toes. Or if I have family at home that has been hurt by, being real, hurt by people in the church. I don't want to offend them and talk too much about church, but it's like, you know, if you have a great experience, share the great experience and do so unashamedly. Like I've seen more people actually be turned on to the fact that I'm sharing about the love of Christ and about going back to church than the other way around. I would almost say, I don't think I've ever met someone that's like, well, I'm not going to church because of your experience. Never met that. That has yet to happen. Amen. But like, I usually, I meet people who are like, you know, like I never thought of it that way. Or, you know, maybe I can try reading the Bible again. Maybe that's something I can do. I'm like, cool, baby steps. I'm not trying to push them into a pew. I'm just like, give Jesus a chance to be a part of your life again. Like that's what he wants. And everything else will fall into place for them in God's timing with them. But if we are unashamed and we share, we're giving people the opportunity to make another decision for something better for themselves.
You know, I like, too, how iShare incorporates their name into every theme for the year. This year's theme was?
I share the answer.
Yeah, I just think that's so cool, and it makes it much more applicable because what is the answer? So you go to there and you figure out, okay, this is an answer that I can give people, you know. And, so I really like the theme and how every speaker incorporates their own message about, you know, what the answer is and sharing it. And like you said before, I really like how it's applicable to someone like me who's never gone door to door to talk to people. How can I share the answer, you know?
Exactly. And everyone can share. You don't need to be a colporteur. You don't need to be a pastor. You could be a painter. You can have no job whatsoever. And you could still have something to share that's valuable. So, and I also love the title, I Share. Like, it's kind of like, it's a very gentle in your face, like, hey, you're here to learn to share.
Yeah.
And it's not just to share with others. Sometimes we need to share with ourselves, like, because we forget certain principles. And it's good to go back and be like, oh, this is what I heard in that sermon. That's right. And this is what the Bible says. That's right. Like, this is an opportunity for me to grow. Plus, the more you share, it's kind of like a double blessing. You bless others, and in turn, you get blessed.
Yeah.
It's amazing that that was the way that God made us,
Yes.
too.
Very relational.
Yeah.
Very two-way.
Can you speak more to the types of activities and events that are at an iShare conference? Breakout sessions, things like that.
Sure. So it's a very dynamic conference since it's a baby conference. We try to be dynamic in our approaches. So sometimes we'll have breakout sessions. So we'll have our main speakers throughout the day, because it's mainly a Friday night, Saturday conference. So on Fridays, it's a testimony focus. So we have a speaker come, like we had David Machado come, and he shared his testimony. We had conference leaders come and share their testimonies. And then on Saturday, that's when we have our kind of Sabbath structured, or a Sabbath school structured setting, or church structured setting. We'll have Sabbath school in the morning, or a devotional. No, we have devotional Sabbath school, which is usually like a panel, and then we'll have a main speaker. Then, of course, it's lunch. Amen. And then we have the breakout groups. This year we did something different. Instead of breakout groups where people separate and they listen to different speakers on different topics, this year we did more practical skits. We tried to shoot for more practical Christianity and give them scenario, message. And then after that, we kind of have we have dinner and then closing sermon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's hopefully, like, this is a structure we've seen works very well, but we're experimenting and we're open to other ideas.
If I come up with any, I'll tell you.
Thank you. As the new logistics director, I hope she does.
Oh, yeah.
And then you also have baptisms.
We do have, thank you. We have, I don't know why I forgot, that's like the most beautiful part. That's the part where you will see me start crying, is the baptism. So between dinner and, between the breakout sessions, dinner, and then, it's breakout sessions and dinner. Between those two is usually when we have baptisms. And they are so beautiful. I think this last year we had, I want to say 15 to 20 baptisms. Again, numbers. We had many baptisms, and they were so emotional. And there was people there that I knew from, like, years past, and I was just like, oh my goodness, you're here. Like, the Lord brought you here, and like getting to witness that and how happy God must be, and just seeing that, it's amazing.
I know you must have very many stories about things that you've witnessed, but is there one that sticks out, a baptism that sticks out in your mind, one of the most vivid memories that you have of something that just touched your heart?
Well, I actually got baptized at iShare.
Wow.
Perfect.
I know, right?
Let me see. So I've been practicing Christian for around 8 years now, and I actually was given Bible studies by my cousin who had given his life to God. And when I decided to actually follow him was the day after I signed up for canvassing. And the Lord just did incredible miracles in my family's life. And I was like, okay, God is real. Let's actually do this canvassing thing. Let's work for him. And every summer was just a blessing after blessing. I found out he wanted me to be a nurse through canvassing.
Oh, wow.
I found out he wanted me to do medical missionary work through canvassing.
Wow.
Like, there's so many just canvassing experiences I can tell you. But one summer, throughout the year, I was going to this revival meeting that my cousin was actually doing. And I was like, yeah, go David. And him and I had talked about baptisms because I was baptized before, but I never really understood what baptism really was, or what that decision meant long-term, only short-term. And we had studied it out together, And then I studied it out alone for a long time and prayed about it. I was like, I feel like, or I believe the Lord is telling me to get baptized. And so at his revival meetings, I decided to do that. And I didn't know where to go to get baptized. And then when Aisha came up, I was like, I would love to be baptized with my peers in this place where my life was changed. And so, yeah, not going to get emotional, but it was pretty beautiful. It was, it was in a hotel pool. You'd think that would be a little funky, but no, like we had canvassers lined everywhere. They were singing hymns. It was beautiful. And so if you ever see my Facebook page, one of the pictures is my baptism, and it means so much to me.
That's awesome. So I was curious because you have a role that you do in iShare, right?
Yes.
So what is that role?
I am currently the evangelism director.
Oh, how nice.
Yes, amen. I love evangelism, so I'm very excited.
What in your life do you feel that God has led you to, because you talked right now about how God led you into medical missionary work and led you to be a nurse. How do you feel like God has led you to do this? And maybe even specifically evangelist or director of evangelism.
Sure. I've always been involved with evangelism, like kind of in the background. And then with Advent Hope, I was outreach director for 2 years for 3 years. Numbers. For 3 years. For 3 years. And that was such a blessing. And I just fell in love with just reaching out to people and just seeing God's hand in all of it. It reminded me so much of canvassing. And I was just like, this is where it's at. Like, this is like meeting people and meeting their needs and just showing them that I love them. Like, we don't always have to like preach the gospel. We can just live out the gospel. Like even in iShare, we call it evangeliving. Yeah. Like it's about living out that faith. And I was like, I really want this to continue. But when I left Loma Linda, I started working at Weimar, and then I stopped being involved with Advent Hope because it was so far. It was kind of hard to keep track and be in the know of everything that's happening when you're 8 hours away. And so
I'll just say for our viewers that Advent Hope is a Sabbath school at the Loma Linda University Church.
Yes.
And Priscilla, that's what you were involved in.
That's what I was involved in. And I was involved with Advent Hope for like 4 to 5 years. Like, I love Advent Hope. I'm involved again, but
so it must have left a hole.
It did. It really did. And at Weimar, I love Weimar, but when you're involved with something so much, you come back and you're just like, or you go into a new place and you're like, okay, where do I fit now? That I've left something so impactful, and I'm in this new environment. And it was a blessing. Weimar was definitely a blessing. But as the Lord works, my trail ended up going to Clear Lake, which is in Napa area. And there didn't seem to be many opportunities to do evangelism, no matter, like, I don't know if the Lord was just shutting the door to, well, he must have been shutting the door to open the right one and help me focus on the right one. But no matter what I did, doors seemed to close, and I was like, what's going on? Like, where can I get involved? I want to be involved in a local church, like, Lord, put me to work. But nothing really came up. And I remember my old housemate at Weimar, she was involved with iShare. And I called her one day because I was like, Lord, I can't just sit idly here. This isn't me. And so I called her and I was like, Rebecca, I need help. Like, you're part of iShare. What does iShare need? I would love to help. I'm like, if you need water bottles, I will get you those water bottles. Like, you need a cup of water? Girl, I will get you a cup of water. I was like, just put me to work. Help me do something. And she was like, okay. And as things worked out, they were actually looking for a new logistics director. Now, logistics is not my thing, so I was like, Rebecca, no, about that. And she was just like, no, just check it out, pray about it. And then our mutual friend, Gurpreet, was actually the logistics director at the time. And she calls me, she says, hey, I hear you're interested. I was like, that's loaded. I don't know if I'm interested in logistics, but I'm interested in helping. And so she was like, great, so we'll get you trained for logistics. I was like, you're like, what? Wait. And so, but the Lord is so good, and it's been such a huge blessing. It has been definitely a different part of ministry that I did passively. I didn't do it like full on, so this was definitely different. And this last year I did it actually with Erin. Erin was my co-pilot with that, and she can testify. Many times I was just like, what? Just, what? But you know, God is good. God really He smoothed out those waters, and at the end of the day, despite I'm a perfectionist, so I was just like, these have to be done this way, and this has to be done this way. And even though I'm like, maybe this didn't come out the right way, the Lord really worked it out. And it just shows that He's behind the work that we do. And
it really does.
It really does.
And even in a place that maybe you think you don't fit in.
Right. Right.
Or you're like, I have no talent here, or I have no natural gifts.
Right.
He's teaching you something, and more often than not, it's to depend on Him.
Yeah.
Exactly. And while I was doing it, I was just like, well, this is interesting, but I miss being with the people. Like, I miss doing stuff with others. And it just so happened that our current evangelism director wanted something a little bit more focused to what the Lord was leading him towards. And I asked him, I was like, do you think I should go for evangelism? He was like, yes. And I was like, really? He was like, yes. He was like, I'll talk to Mike right now. I was like, wait, whoa. Let's pray. No, but he was so supportive, and it was great. And we talked to Mike, and I was like, Mike, I don't know if you have someone else in mind, which is fine, but you know.
And this is Michael Tuzon.
Michael Tuzon. He's the director. He's the one that started iShare. The Lord really put it in his heart.
He's also been a guest of ours on
iTestify. For Souls West,
For
I
Souls
believe.
West.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
West, yeah.
So it's
the
all
sister ministry of
interconnected.
iShare.
Yes.
Yeah, which is, I think, also his baby. So both of them. And I talked to him, and I was like, you know, Mike, I don't know if you have someone else in mind. That's fine. Just know that I am interested. And he's like, no. He's like, I really like working with you. He's like, definitely. He's like, let's have you do this. And it was just such a blessing. We're like, well, who would fill in the logistics shoes? And the Lord provided Erin. She's so excited.
What?
No, it's going to be great. And like, it's always a growing experience. Like, even with iShare's evangelism, like, there's so many new things we want to go with it, but it's going to be great, and it's going to be a blessing, and we're both going to grow from this a lot. Amen.
All right.
Can you share with us? You provided us with the verse.
Yes, I did.
So I thought it would be great to read it now and talk a little bit about what that means for iShare.
Sure. So in Matthew 24:14, it says, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. And this gospel, like, this is a saving gospel, and this is what iShare wants to promote. It's just like, share the gospel, share about Jesus, share about His coming. He is coming soon. Be a part of that amazing testimony, that amazing experience. And someone else out there may not know Jesus. Like, let's give them an opportunity to get to know Him for themselves.
Yeah, no, that's true.
As I was reading this, I was reading this morning, this verse, and it just struck me that it says a testimony.
Yes.
For a testimony or a witness.
Yes.
Like in King James, it says a witness. And it just struck me with what you were saying a little bit earlier, how your witness isn't just telling. The sharing is not just verbal.
Right.
It's your whole life.
Yes.
It's when you witness something, you just visually see it, right?
Right.
It's the evidence of, so it's something that you see.
Yes.
It's lived out in the life. It's in every day. I know those mountaintop experiences are difficult to come down from.
Right.
But, it doesn't have to, I mean, our religion, our faith is not a high.
Exactly.
It's not.
Exactly.
That's not a real sharing relationship.
Right. Yeah.
So it just struck me that, man, I've never really noticed that word before when I've read this very well-known verse.
Right.
That it says, for a witness
Right.
witness, and
Exactly.
that's the theme of iShare.
Exactly. And the testimony part, like the testimonies in the life as well. So many times we're like, we have to have this amazing story and gone through so many ups and downs to have a testimony. It's like, no. Like the very fact that you're walking with Christ is a testimony. And the way you're living your life is a testimony. Like I know this woman on Instagram, she just posts about modest dressing. Like beautiful dresses that just, like they're so simple. But that's her testimony, just the way that she dresses. I'm like, oh, good for you. Like it doesn't have to always be verbal. It can be just lived out.
Yeah.
And that's what Christ would have us do, is live out a testimony.
Yeah,
And
that's very true.
there is definitely something I also wanted to add. iShare is definitely unique in that it's so focused on evangelism. It's one of the more unique conferences in the North American division. But it's also, I keep touching the mic, sorry. It's also under the Pacific Union. So that's very unique for it to be under a conference, but that's just a testimony to how much our leaders in the Adventist Church are focused on sharing the gospel too. They're so passionate about it, and seeing them at our conferences is such a huge encouragement, and you can see the light in their eyes and just the joy of knowing that young people, or just even the public, are wanting to know how to share the gospel. So it's definitely a beautiful aspect I wanted to touch on really quickly.
Priscilla,
Yes.
if you were, well, first we do have some contact information that I
Yes.
believe you would want to share with our
Yes.
viewers, because my question is, how
Yes.
can they get involved? Are there
Awesome.
ways that our viewers can be part of Share?
Yes,
iShare.
absolutely. So we have the website, ishareconference.com, and you can look at that and register and come to our conferences. But not only that, like for evangelism, we're doing a lot of events for the local public, but we're also doing a lot of media evangelism now, or trying to get that going. Baby steps. If you're interested, you're a writer, you're a photographer, you're a videographer, hit a sister up. Like, let me know. Like, we have an Instagram account. Like, put a comment in there. We have a Facebook account. Please leave us a message. We want to help people get involved.
Okay.
There's no reason why we would want to be like, no, you can't be a part of this.
Okay.
We want people to know that they have community.
So they can get in contact with you
Yes.
through the website as well?
Through the website, through the website actually has links to Facebook and the social media.
Okay, great. Well, we thank you so much for coming on and sharing that iShare. No pun intended. It was not a pun at all. It's
I know,
just
right?
straight out there. But thank you for sharing with us more about this experience that you've personally had and that others have had. And I know both Erin and I have had personal experiences there as well.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
That have been a blessing. Yeah, it's
Praise
for
God.
everyone. It's not just for canvassers or for, evangelists. Every one of us is an evangelist. This is what this verse here, Matthew 24:14 says.
Amen.
So we thank you so much for coming on, and
Thank you.
viewers, we thank you for watching. If you'd like to donate, if you're inspired to, please go to LLBN.tv. And please continue to pray for us here at iShare as we continue to pray for you and that you may let your light shine.